If you're into working out or you've ever tried to improve in the gym, you know that a big part of it is tracking your diet, tracking your exercises. This week, I met up with this guy, Andrew, who 2 years ago started developing an app that I think is going to completely revolutionize this part of the fitness industry. It's called Train Fitness, and it's an app that automatically tracks your workouts using AI, and it does so with incredible accuracy. Do some bicep curls in the gym, then take a look at your Apple Watch, and it'll tell you exactly how many reps you did, how many calories you burnt, and all of this other information that up until now has been so tedious and time consuming to keep track of. There's nothing else like this out there, and I'm super hyped to have gone and talked to him this early in the app development. We talked about building the company from the ground up, some of the challenges of launching a product like this today, and what the future of Train Fitness looks like. But let's start from the beginning.
So it all started when I was younger. I used to competitively race in triathlons, and at the time I was super inundated and excited with the technology and the data behind triathlons or behind sport. So any tech I could get my hands on to try and track those exercises. So heart rate monitors, GPSs, smartwatches, power meters on bikes, you name it. I was very excited about that technology and using it to try and become a better athlete. When I went to university, I kind of did a little bit less on the cardio side and started focusing more on the strength training side. I think I was very dismayed or disappointed to realize that all that tech that I'd learned to love on the cardio side just didn't exist on the strength side. There's no way, or there was no way, to automatically track your workout. So I couldn't get any of this technology, and that's where the idea initially spawned from. Actually, it was March 2020, when COVID hit. That's when I started kind of playing around with the idea. I'd had the idea for a while, but it was this void of social life that kind of pushed me into this. You might as well spend your weekends doing something. So I started playing around and testing the idea. I worked on it for probably about 4 to 6 months, kind of on weekends and evenings. And then shortly thereafter, my co-founder joined me, Antoine. Antoine had gotten very deep into the artificial intelligence space, and I was starting to get deep into that space as well. So we were actually just kind of chatting about it, bouncing ideas off each other, kind of having these like virtual chats about like the power of AI. And we were both really excited about the space. And when I told him like, hey, there's this idea I've been kicking around and starting to work on, he was super, super excited and passionate about it as well. And very shortly after that, he joined in.
So speaking of AI, you guys I would say that you're more of a tech company than you are a fitness company. You're just kind of bringing those two things together, right?
Yeah, so I would actually say that we are an AI first company. Our main product, our main technology, and 80% of what we spend our days doing is building an AI platform that we can use for automatic exercise tracking. It just so happens that we're both very passionate about the fitness space, and I think there's huge opportunity in the fitness space. So that's for sure where we started. But while I would say we use both, the AI side of things as well as the fitness side of things, the AI is where a lot of our time is focused.
What do you think is the hardest part about growing a company like this? Like, is it building the tech? Is it finding investors? Is it building a good team? Like, what do you think is the hardest part?
Yeah, and I smile because it's like every day a new problem. Yeah. I would say for us, like we launched last September, and the phrase that people often throw around is if you're not embarrassed by your first version of your app or your first version of your website or product, then you launch too late. You should be launching your product is what the literature says. You should be launching your product while it's still rough around the edges. And while I think that was very true for the last decade, what makes building a product or business really challenging now is you can't just launch a very rough, basic product and expect consumers to adopt it and use it, because in today's market and society, consumers have become so accustomed to customization, white glove experience, second to none, customer support, that anything less than that, we as consumers will not tolerate it. If I download an app and it isn't perfect and customer service is instant and they've got all these like customizations for me personally, the thing is there's so many other competitors out there and so many other options out there, why would I tolerate it? And so what I think makes it very challenging for us for sure, I'd say the biggest challenge and what's challenging about just launching a product today is you can't build a product for, in 6 months for $50,000 like you could, 10 years ago, and launch it and expect people to get excited about it. The reality is, and not to sound too like satanic, but the reality is like it costs a lot more today to build a successful product because the bar is just that much higher. And getting past that bar in order to start amassing customers is a very, very challenging thing to do.
You said you guys are about 2 years old now, a little over 2 years. What would you tell yourself when you were beginning this company that you know now that you didn't know back then?
I think the biggest thing is focus. When you're just starting out, you will underestimate how hard things are 10 out of 10 times. You will underestimate how much it'll cost and how long it'll take to build things. And there's just so many great ideas floating out there. And I think when in the first year, we would get distracted because every day or every week, as we were kind of exploring the market or exploring the opportunity in front of us, some new shiny idea would come out there, and that was very, very enticing. And I think in hindsight, if I could say anything, it would be try to focus on what you've decided as your beachhead market and where the most value is. Stay hyper tuned into that and try to ignore the noise, because there'll be a day when you can start exploring those ideas. But as soon as you lose focus, then you lose your chances of success.
So what's your focus right now? Is it just growth, trying to bring this thing into the mainstream?
Yeah, so our focus right now is winning the strength market. So the way I see it is when you go on the App Store right now and you are going to the gym and you want to download an app, there's probably hundreds and hundreds of apps out there, but I would say there's probably 30 of them that are considered like strong apps that are actually venture backed, have had some serious work on them, and are relatively successful apps. Our goal is in the next 12 months, we want to be number one. So how do we just win with traditional strength trainers? We aren't looking at CrossFit right now. We aren't looking at HIIT. We're not looking at workout classes. We're not looking at other sports. It's just what you would consider your traditional. I go to the gym 3 times a week. I kind of move from exercise to exercise, lifting weights, trying to get stronger. We're focusing only on that demographic and being the number one leading app in that space.
So, like I told you, I have a lot of young entrepreneurs who watch my videos, people who are interested in starting a company or kind of dabbling with the idea. And I think what you do is inspiring. It's inspiring to me, and I'm sure people who are watching this video would be inspired too. So what advice would you give to a young entrepreneur who's like on the fence, who maybe have an ambitious goal, but they're scared about taking that first step?
Yeah, so it's I think 2 things. One, I would say failing a startup seems very daunting, I think, to me, it felt very daunting for sure. And I remember, even in early days when I was trying to build this web design company and the vending machines, these thoughts go through your head. What if I buy a vending machine and then no one likes drinking Coke tomorrow? Or like, what if I spend money advertising my web design company, but nobody buys websites and I lose all this money? And I think what I always kind of tell young entrepreneurs is, in the grand scheme of things, in the long run, I don't know very many people that started a business that regretted it 10 years later. And I truly do mean that. And I think you need to be reasonable with what how much money you can invest in your own time and your other commitments. But even for me, I started probably in my earlier days 5 or 6 companies that I haven't even mentioned that fell flat on their face and did not succeed. But the learnings from those, and even the stories and the experience, I was hired for jobs that I know for certain I never would have been hired for if I didn't fail at building a company before, because that story was so interesting for them. So I think my biggest advice is, like, if you're thinking about it and you're on the fence, then you should do it. The sooner you start, the better. I think the other common misconception people say is they'll put it off and they'll put it off. So it's, I just need to save $2,000 more dollars. I just need to wait till I, finish this education or move to this place, or I just need to wait for, 1 more year. My viewpoint is, if you're on the fence thinking, that means the time to start is now, and you should jump into it.
Okay, so we talked a lot about building the app and the background behind it, but I actually want to see how this thing works. So can we get to the gym and check it out?
Totally, yeah. I think train works best when you can see it in action, so let's do it.
All right, Andrew, so you got your Apple Watch on, so it's just an app. How does it work?
Yeah, so everything lives on the Apple Watch. So what you can see is, if you take a look at the watch, it'll prompt us to start our workout. So we'll do that. It'll say start moving. That's basically all I need to do for right now. The only manual input that's required is you set your weight as you move around the gym. So by default, it starts at 25 pounds. I have 25-pound dumbbells here, so we'll pick them up and we'll give it a shot. So you don't need to tell the app what exercise you're doing or how many reps. You just start doing it and it'll detect it. So what I'll do is I'll pick these up and we'll start with something simple, so like bicep curls. So we'll do a couple different bicep curls here. And as I'm doing this, the app is automatically detecting the type of exercise I'm performing and counting the reps as well. So we can put those down. And if you take a look, it's gonna say analyzing bicep curls. And then boom, it's gonna say I did 6 bicep curls at 25 pounds. So it doesn't just work on dumbbell stuff. So we've got some weight loaded on the bench, so we can do that. I don't need to select the exercise type or the reps or the rest time or anything else. I'm just gonna start performing my exercise. So we'll take a look here. And there you can see barbell bench, 6 reps at 135 pounds. So we support leg exercises as well, front squats, back squats, deadlifts, Bulgarian split squats. We even support exercises where there's very little wrist movement.
Can I give it a shot? Can I try it out?
Yeah, totally. So
Okay, let's do it.
strap this on.
Okay.
All right, so now that the watch is on, you're all good to go.
You want to take over? Take over.
I'll take over as cameraman.
There's no cheating. There's no cheat reps anymore. There we go, 9. That's crazy. So can you talk a little bit about like the tech? Like how does it know exactly, is it all in the wrist movement? How does that work?
Yeah, so we use a combination of, so within an Apple Watch, there's an accelerometer and a gyroscope, which tells you how fast the watch is accelerating, and the gyroscope tells you rotational movement to tell you what direction it's going in. We take that data in combination with, we can actually detect based off of the motion of the Apple Watch, how the muscle fibers in your lower arm are engaging and de-engaging. From that, we can actually make a 3D image of what that user looks like as they move through 3D space. Then we use something called a deep network or a neural network, which is a type of artificial intelligence AI network or program that will then be able to take that 3D motion, render it, and be able to predict what exercise the person's performing.
And did you build this from like the ground up, from scratch?
Yeah, so nothing like this existed when we started, and still besides us, it does not. So myself and my co-founder built the early versions of this. It probably took us, I would say, 14 to 16 months of research to build this, between collecting data, doing the testing, and even then we're only in our infancies of it. We support 110 exercises right now. We want to get to a stage where we support 300 different exercises and variations as well.
It's the next level, man. If you want to try out the Train Fitness app, you can download it right now if you have an Apple Watch, and I'll also leave all of their info in the description down below. Yeah, this was a super fun video to make. Shout out to Andrew for making the time to talk to me, and thanks for watching this video. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.